I had a viewer contact me today and say, Mark, I'm running across all these new college football channels on YouTube, and I'm checking them out, and pretty much all of them suck. These guys don't know what they're talking about. So you've come to the right place. Check out Steve's work on Michigan Podcast, of course, in the Bigger Ten. Steve Day's joining us each and every week here on The One. I am going to humbly but proudly put myself in the same category. Watch us here at the Voice of College Football as well. Steve and I, for the past 5 weeks, have put together a show here live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time called The One, because it is one major college football topic for us to discuss and debate. Our views are authentic. We are not going to just argue for the sake of argument's sake and disagree, but we will share our thoughts. All right, Steve, let's tee it up here. We just received news this week out of Iowa City that Brian Ferentz, son of Kirk Ferentz, the head coach at Iowa, and Brian entering his 7th season as the offensive coordinator, has had his contract amended. He was earning or making, wink, wink, $900,000 per season. That has been lowered to $850,000, but with some bonuses included, which would include earning an extra $112,000 per season for his offense or the team. Again, wink, wink, scoring 25 points per game, and the team also accomplishing 7 wins on the season. And as I understand it, that would include a bowl game, not just the 12 regular season games. So I'll give you my quick thought, and then certainly we've got Steve here with his vast knowledge of college football in particular, but in this case, even more so a deep perspective on Iowa football and the Big Ten, of course. So my thoughts are, first and foremost, this is ludicrous, ridiculous. 25 points per game for a team that averaged about 17.5 would be a significant improvement, of course. So if we're just going year to year, 40% increase in points per game, phenomenal. That would be a tremendous effort right there. That figure, however, would rank 85th in college football this past season, tied with Arkansas State. This has been a deplorable offense, dysfunctional in so many different ways, lack of player development, lack of creativity in the offense, just routinely inept on offense. If we went through the schedule, we could just point to this defense saving this program week after week after week after week. I don't know when the last time we could go to an Iowa football game and say the offense won the game this week. So my couple brief issues before I turn it over to you with this amendment to the and a bonus, which is usually given to employees for exceptional work or at least good work, would be, first and foremost, 7 wins for the Iowa football program should not be considered an achievement, especially when they are handed almost all the time 3 non-conference wins. They beat Iowa State 80% of the time. Then they play 2 cream puffs. So they're going to go 3-0 most of the time, non-conference. And therefore, 4-5 is going to be a good standard in the Big Ten to achieve, to receive a bonus. And then also, we both know that if Iowa's not only fielded one of the elite defenses in college football for quite some time, they also score the ball more than any other defense consistently from year to year. So those 25 points per game contributed much by the defense, or the 17 points per game last year. Some of the results, as you well know, Steve, from week to week are just the aberration that Iowa football exists in is just astounding.
Mark, that might be as verklempt as I have ever seen you. Full disclosure, I've known Kirk Ferentz for well over 20 years. I used to work professionally doing sports talk radio in Des Moines. It's how I got into broadcasting. I covered the Iowa football program very closely. I've got pictures of Kirk with my kids. Now, it's been a few years, given what I do now, since I was intimately around the program, but the same guy's been running it the whole time. And he's the same guy that he has been the whole time. He hasn't really, changed at all. So I've got a lot of experience with Iowa football. And this has been an issue his entire tenure. I mean, they have rarely finished in the top 80 in total offense since Kirk has been there. Going back to 1999. I mean, it's been very rare. I mean, I remember taking frustrated phone calls in Des Moines from Iowa fans about, this was the original offensive coordinator doing bubble screens on 3rd and 12. Okay. I mean, this is not new. This is not new. As you were, as here's though what should be said. They've averaged 9 wins a year in the last 3 non-COVID seasons. In the COVID year, they started 0-2 and went 5-2. And that was the year, by the way, that he had to put down a brouhaha in his own program about whether he's a racist or not. Right? So in this day and age, you don't come back from that scarlet letter very often. Before you even get a hearing or an adjudication of such, the mere accusation is an ender, particularly if you are in the boomer and Caucasian categories that Kirk resides in. It is the presumption of guilt is imminent, if not.
Which is horrible and pathetic, by the way, of course.
But it is what it. Yes, yeah. But it is what it is. Okay, so he not only survived that, the team then started 0-2 in a COVID year, and he was able to rally the troops and win 5 in a row. All right, so this is what I think Kirk Ferentz did with the Brian Ferentz thing. I think that he adjusted his glasses, if you see what I'm doing here, okay, and came up with a contract addendum. That's what I think that he did. All right. I mean, the Iowa defense averaged 9 points a game last year. Basically, they're asking Brian Ferentz to average 15 points per game. Okay. If you look, 900 grand to 850, 950, 100 grand, you're already making almost $1 million a year. That's not really that much money of a difference, frankly. He essentially gets restored for accomplishing almost exactly what he had been accomplishing. I mean, I just think this is the Ferentzes just simply got together and just trolled their haters. And I say that as someone that has known Kirk Ferentz for over 20 years. I absolutely believe that's what has occurred here. And I got to say, even though I agree intellectually with your assessment, I have much respect, though, for my conclusion of what I believe has actually gone on. He's like, listen, man, I dug this program out of the crater that a Hayden Fry, who waited 2 years too late to retire, put us in. I finished in the top 10 numerous times while I'm here. I didn't leave for the NFL at the height of my, career arc when I could have done that. Okay. My success is the reason that you took Kinnick Stadium from a glorified high school stadium to, I don't know when the last time you were there, Mark. I mean, it's gorgeous what they've done with it. I mean, they have turned it into an absolute cathedral, right? I really think, and he's at the end of his tenure. No, there's no one to tell him no. He runs the athletic department, not the athletic director, Gary Barta, who's a bit of an effeminate, frankly. I mean, I really think that Kirk Ferentz just got together and on his way out the door in his last couple of seasons and just decided to, fire up the old Johnny Paycheck, take this job and shove it if you don't like it. How you like them apples? Okay. And did it in his very classy, dignified, passive-aggressive way. But that's absolutely what I believe has gone on here. I just think that this is nothing other than he just was adjusting his glasses there and put out a contract addendum, if you know what I'm saying, brother.
So you could see through all of it to catch that, which I wouldn't, because I respect Kirk Ferentz from afar. You've got a relationship with him. And again, you have a history there, but I respect. So that should be stated. I do respect he's been a tremendous football coach and also a class individual off the field. Absolutely. And Iowa is the model of stability and character and doing
they've been
things
two
the right
football
way.
coaches since 1978. Since 1978, Mark.
And that speaks volumes, but I think that they've erred way too much on the side of stability and let's not, try to challenge ourselves to excel beyond that. Kirk Ferentz rarely speaks on the national scale. I heard him confuse a reporter's question because the reporter was challenging him about his offense and about national ranks. And Kirk's like, he made some kind of comment. First of all, he always deflects past the offense to amplify the overall success of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not as good at analogies as you are, Steve, but if you're running an organization, a company, and you've got an accounting department, a technology department, and a sales department, and the accounting and the technology are first rate, first class, but nobody can sell the freaking product and they suck, are you just going to let that go and just say, well, we can operate on 2/3 of a company? It's just insane to me. And then he made some kind of comment this past offseason about that they don't want to go after a mobile quarterback. It doesn't fit their system, and they don't want somebody who's going to improvise. My word, if anything's been proven in college football over the past 10 years, that's what you want. You know, especially in that offense, you can get a guy that can pick up a third down conversion once in a while.
Well, if he doesn't want somebody if he doesn't want someone that wants to run, he got the right quarterback in Cade McNamara. I can promise you that. Okay. I'm sorry. I just can't help but laugh. I'm going to be 50 this year, Mark. And there is just a certain Gran Torino aspect to all of this that I am frankly starting to respect. 10 years ago, I'd have lost my mind over this. Okay. But now I find it borderline adorable, actually. All right. It's so obvious. He's not lacking in self-awareness. Dude took 3 years ago, the dude took his strength and conditioning coach, who is every bit as responsible for his success as he is. All right. I mean, what Chris did with that program, turning 220-pound no-star recruits like Robert Gallery into the second pick in the NFL draft, and doing that for how many years? Okay. He is every bit as responsible for the success of that program as Kirk is. But man, Kirk had no problem at all just putting putting him up as the human shield for the race scandal and letting him take all the blame for it, cutting him a nice $1 million check to go away and moving on. Okay. I really think that at this point, he doesn't care. When I say he doesn't care, I don't mean he doesn't want to win and things of that nature, but I think that he's at a point in his career where he's maxed out probably the success potential of this program. He's had multiple top 10 teams. He's been to the Big Ten championship game a couple different times. I think he's probably
way back.
True,
those top 10 teams.
True, but remember he had an undefeated team just in 2015.
Okay.
Remember? Yeah,
that team. Okay,
yeah, but he's maxed out the success of this program. I mean, if you take away when Forrest Evashevsky was coach in the 50s, Michigan guy, by the way, and then the couple year mid 80s zenith under Hayden Fry, 85, when they're number one in the country for 5 weeks, go to Columbus in a rainstorm and, get beat, but they go on and, go 10-1. And then Ronnie Harmon probably got paid off to fumble and blow the Rose Bowl, basically. So except for a couple of years at the peak of the Hayden Fry era, when they were a nationally relevant program, this has kind of been, it looked different under Hayden. They were more exotic. They were more multiple offensively, but the end results were largely similar to what Kirk has produced. And I think that Kirk has just decided, my son can coach. And we have dealt with the Spencer Petras situation by upgrading with Cade McNamara, who I'll tell you is a perfect fit for their system and a perfect fit for their culture for sure. I actually think Eric All, if that back holds up, that was the issue at Michigan. That Michigan had issues with clearing him with that back injury. He went kind of off campus to get his own treatment, and Michigan didn't like that, and that kind of caused a divorce there. If All can hold up with that back, I mean, athletically, he has Dallas Clark kind of athleticism for an offense that obviously emphasizes that position, and I think that they're going to run those two guys out and try to prove that Brian Ferentz knows how to coach offense. Just Spencer Petras doesn't know how to play quarterback.
What makes his comment about not wanting a mobile quarterback or that type of quarterback, however it was phrased, even more ludicrous is that beyond just seeing what's going on in college football today and how successful that is, that his best success, his most sustained success at the beginning of his career when he turned this program around and had 3 top 10 finishes were with a Heisman finalist at quarterback who could improvise and beat the defense with his feet, and that's Brad Banks.
And then Drew Tate a couple of years after that.
Yes.
That was the year they got down to the white walk-on running back. Okay, I remember that year very well. All right. And so they couldn't run the football. All they had left was a pasty walk-on at running back. They weren't running the football. And so he had no choice but to, during a bye week, he basically created a proto air raid system around Drew Tate. And they rode that all the way to finishing in the top 10. They threw the Hail Mary pass against LSU in the Citrus Bowl, you'll recall, So you're right about that, but they've had seasons where they've approached that without doing it any differently. I'll tell you who I think has more room to be upset about this than anybody else. I don't know what Phil Parker's making. I knew his predecessor, Norm Parker, very well. We were buds. I don't know Phil at all. Whatever he's making, though, I mean, he's got to get a cut of that Brian Ferentz that bonus action, right? I mean, he's responsible. He's going to produce about 7 to 9 points worth of Brian Ferentz's bonus himself, given the last few years, right? I mean, if I'm Phil, I'm like, hey, man, I get a little cut of that action too, right?
No one else in college football, as you well know, churns out results like this week after week after week. So they had the infamous 7-3 win against South Dakota State right out of the gate, which is the most ridiculous.
They won a game against Penn State on the road, like 2-0 or something. I remember on a safety. I do remember that. That was early in Ferentz's career, dude. Yeah. And just to show you how old school Kirk is, he literally wept. I remember it well. I was covering the team back then. He literally wept after that game. It was 5-3. That's what it was.
Yeah, 5-3. I was trying to come up with the score. Yeah.
And Kirk literally was weeping after that game. He was so moved. I'm not making that up. He literally wept.
Yes, punting is a thing to be valued, certainly. But South Dakota State, what's amazing about that? Okay, you come to the conclusion before you look at the box score. They scored they eked out a touchdown against an FCS foe and won 7-3. No, 2 safeties and a field goal on a 5-yard drive. So the offense contributed absolutely nothing in that game.
I love how you are like morally incensed by this.
It's just, this is why I'm more animated, because I'm just flabbergasted by, there is nobody else in the country that operates like this year after year after year.
That's why I've grown to respect it. I used to be where you're at. But as I get older and more stubborn, listen, I just hired my oldest daughter to run my social media because I don't want to learn how to use Instagram. I've learned enough. I don't want to learn anything new. Okay. So there's a part of me that respects the hell out of this. Okay. Now I'm not an Iowa fan. If I was, I'd be losing my damn mind. Okay. But I'm not. Okay. So, there is the blackened recesses of my aging heart and graying hair. It actually kind of respects this, at least a skosh, a little bit.
Well, you are certainly right that Cade McNamara was the right selection at quarterback, but I'll take it a step further. He's the right selection because his fundamentals are not that he doesn't need to be coached. He's not Tom Brady, but his fundamentals, his leadership skills, his ability to run the offense and lead the team in the locker room as well as down the field is at a place where they should just not even coach him. Let's not even deteriorate his skill. Don't coach him. Let him just be. Really?
Well, Cade's got his own quarterback coach and everything else. We
heard
about that at Michigan, so he might agree. So listen, man, I don't care who the OC is. Just let me do my own thing. All right. Give me the check with me system I had at Michigan. I'm almost always going to call the running play, no matter how many guys are at the line of scrimmage. So you're going to like me, okay? Just and keep Brian Ferentz the hell away from me.
All right, folks, we appreciate your sponsored comments and questions, but I just have to outline some of this stuff because other college football fans, when I speak with other fan bases, they just, because they're not deep into it, just cannot believe Iowa State. They lose 10-7. Of course, their touchdown was scored on an interception run inside the red zone to set up the offense. So the offense scores a red zone touchdown. Anybody scoring 27 points against Nevada, that's an indictment. That was one of the worst teams in FBS football. Yeah. That should be a 50 spot. Rutgers, they win 27-10, 2 pick sixes. The defense outscores the offense.
That's what I'm saying. Phil's got to be like, hey, bro,
Exactly.
Okay.
How does he walk off the field, Phil Parker, losing to Illinois 9-6? What he's like, what else can we do?
And that's why they weren't in the Big Ten champ. That's why they didn't get killed by Michigan for the second year in a row in the Big Ten game.
This defense put up the best effort by far of any defense I've ever seen in history. They gave up 54 points. They didn't legitimately give up anything close to 54
Ohio
points.
State had less than 400 yards in that game.
Yes. And of course, Iowa scored 10, and the touchdown was scored by the defense.
Right.
And on and on and on. We could go through this. It's ridiculous. And then, of course, the bowl game. That's classic. You score 3 touchdowns, you win 21-0.
Mark, Athlon Sports
2 pick sixes.
Athlon Sports listed Iowa as a transfer portal winner, despite the fact one of its best running backs transferred. All of the top receivers it had returning, all transferred. They seriously and unironically listed Iowa as a transfer portal winner because the punter Torrey Taylor decided to go ahead and not transfer, go pro, and stick around for another year.
He is exceptional, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Folks, we thank you so much for your sponsored comments and questions. Keep them coming. Erica, thank you for being here. The whole deal is rubbish. Period. End of story. Very embarrassing for those of us who are fans.
If I were a fan, I would exactly have Erica's response. But I'm not a fan, even though I live around a ton of Iowa fans. I don't like root against them, unless they're playing Michigan. I don't like hate them. I'm just not a fan. I didn't grow up here. But as someone who's not a fan and has followed and/or known Kirk for a long time, this is such an up yours move that I just have to respect it, man. I do. Even though, yes, I'm incensed as you are. I'm appalled. I don't think it'll work. Okay. But damn it, man. I just respect the hell out of it. It is such an in-your-face move. I just can't help but respect it. The dude has to abide, Mark. The dude must abide.
Now that you have explained that perspective, I do have a semblance of respect for that. I didn't see it on that level. I think very linear, like, what are you doing? This makes no sense.
Yes.
And of course, having not known him like you do. The real Hayden, thank you so much for being here. What is the definition of insanity, and why is it Iowa football? I want to stab my eyes with forks watching the offense the last 2 years.
I would just sit on the Bigger Ten account live tweeting Big Ten Saturdays, man, and just watching Iowa's offense. Gosh, I wanted to cut myself, and I'm not even a fan. Okay. So I'm with you. All right. But I really don't think Brian Ferentz is the problem. I go back to what I said a while ago. They have rarely rated in the top 80 in total offense Kirk's entire career there. Okay. So don't get me wrong. I don't think Brian Ferentz is the solution. I just think that this is just the most egregious manifestation of what it has been most of Kirk's tenure there.
If I have a prominent position in this country in some industry like Kirk Ferentz does, especially if it's highly publicized and out there for everyone to see the moves that are made, and I have a son, which I do at 26 years old, I would not put either one of us in this situation.
Right.
Kirk Ferentz can call any place in the country. He can call 130 other coaches and say, do you have a job for my boy? And set him up nicely somewhere else.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's, but you're a reasonable man.
Mark Richt, he ended his tenure in Miami in the same situation. He hired his son, John Richt, who was not qualified as the quarterback's coach, and put himself in a situation where he had to step away.
Well, this happened at Kansas State the first time Bill Snyder retired. He wanted his son Sean to take over. The university said, what, the special teams coach, just because he won the Lucky Sperm Club? We're not doing that. They went out and got Ron Prince. That didn't work. And then Bill came back. And then Bill still wanted his son to take over again when he retired for the second time. And the university made a great hire in Chris Kleiman. But it's not unique. Solomon often wants Rehoboam to take over for him. That's not unique.
That's a biblical reference for all of you there. Good stuff. Our buddy Corey Brad and myself, we do an Iowa show on Tuesday, and the entire off season, in addition to reviewing the Iowa offense, and it's just deplorable nature, we both came to the conclusion that they had the 123rd ranked offense in 2021, that it was statistically impossible. Like, I kept making this point. They have lost maybe the best center in the country. They have lost one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten, Charlie Jones. They've lost their best running back. They probably will be worse on offense, but I thought statistically they can't be. There's just no way. They could practically just run off tackle right, run off tackle left, and then throw a play action pass to the tight end every series and produce more yardage than they typically do.
You're actually selling me on this even more.
It's just insane.
It's so spiteful by Kirk. It is so spiteful that I'm now rooting for it. Okay.
And look at their schedule. He may have the last laugh because
the schedule is very favorable. The last couple of years it has not been, but this year it is very favorable. You bet it is. Yeah.
They can score their 25.2 points per game because of some well-placed points maybe against some of the non-conference opponents that tick them over 25 per game. Mm-hmm. Let's see if certain decisions are being made late in the season that bloat the final score. We'll see. One Scoop John, Michigan fan, appreciate you being here. Who should they have hired as offensive coordinator? Paul Chryst is a free agent. Everyone, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join Mark's Patreon for only $5.
Good thinking with Chris. I mean, similar backgrounds, philosophies, systems. Now, I would imagine he's going to be heavily enjoying that nice big fat buyout he got from Wisconsin. It doesn't necessarily want to offset that, to be an OC. But I think that guy knows his college football, and I don't think that's an outlandish proposition at all. I just think that, and I think maybe 10 years ago, Kirk Ferentz might have tried to do that. But this Kirk Ferentz is running his last victory lap, and I mean he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave his progeny hanging.
Steve, you made a statement a few minutes ago that you believe that Kirk has probably maxed out this program. Mm-hmm. That the potential is not there as it is at Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State.
No, it's not. I mean, they got, they had a couple years. They really were talking about 1 year in 1985 when Chuck Long could have gone to the NFL. Was kind of a quirky. His eligibility was kind of a quirky, unique experience. He didn't go, came back, and they brought all those other guys back, and they got to number 1 in the country 5 weeks in a row. And other than that, the max out of this program from Hayden Fry on has been, they can get, up to number 7, number 8 at the end of the year and win 10 games, maybe 11 every now and then. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. That puts you in the top 30 programs in the country. And when they have almost no in-state recruiting base whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, averaging 9 wins a year, he has maxed out the program. And I think where Iowa fans are the most legitimately upset, and this is where I would agree with them wholeheartedly, this is the last year of divisions. And now you got USC and UCLA coming in. And I think you can pretty much see how this is going to play out. Almost every year in the Big Ten championship game, it's going to be some combination of Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, USC, UCLA. Almost every single year. And I don't even know that UCLA belongs in that group. They have had 1 10-win season this century. All right. But it's a big brand, So let's just kick them out and put USC in there. One of those teams is going to be in the Big Ten championship literally every year, Mark. Literally every year. There's never going to be a year that all of those teams are not going to be good enough in one singular season to not make it. So one of those teams will make it every year. In a lot of years, most of them, in fact, 2 of those teams will. And so there's an opening here with divisional play for 1 more year to try for a program like Iowa to try. And I think that's what Wisconsin did with bringing Luke Fickell in, as they decided to go ahead. Let's take the Rich Rodriguez gamble. And before you laugh, people forget how coveted Rich Rodriguez was when Michigan hired him. If Rich Rod had taken the Alabama job the year before, we never see one of the great dynasties in college football history, if not the greatest one. Nick Saban's never the Alabama coach. Rich Rod was the most coveted coach in America when he went to Michigan. All right, just like Luke Fickell is right now. It was in a lot of places. And similar circumstance, they're going to blow up an entire 3-decade paradigm of how you win there. Okay, that's lasted under several different coaches going back to the patriarch and Barry Alvarez. They're going to blow that whole thing up, bringing in quarterbacks with 80 touchdown career passes and Phil Luongo from North Carolina. They're going to blow that whole thing up because they think that they have to see if that's their only path to try to still be a relevant championship caliber program, is to see if they can strike lightning there, right? Even though the recruiting base in the state probably doesn't support that kind of a scheme. Michigan did the exact same thing with a far greater recruiting base. Now, Fickle will have more institutional support. It's not nearly as divided there right now as it was when Rich Rod was brought in. Okay. But there's a similar circumstance there. And I think you're seeing both with the urgency of Iowa fans, the dramatic paradigm shift going on at Wisconsin. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with Nebraska? I have no clue where that program is, but there's just not going to be a window for Northwestern to make the Big Ten championship game in the immediate. I mean, for the foreseeable future, I don't think. Maybe I'm going to be 50. I mean, I would be willing to bet I will never see Northwestern in a Big Ten championship game ever again.
The way things are going for Pat Fitzgerald the last 2 seasons, it doesn't seem like there's a foreseeable future of Northwestern having a winning record against MAC teams. My goodness, they've been so bad.
What are they, 4-20 or something in the last 24 games or something like that? Last year they didn't win a game on this continent. So yeah.
To go back to one of your earlier points about Iowa, I almost penciled them in for 8-4. They just seem like, when I think 8-4, I think Iowa. Okay, one of the joys for, I believe, a lot of college football fans in watching an 8-4 team is knowing, okay, we've got a capable head coach. He's building something here. If we put some other building blocks together, we can be a championship team. It's not about the 8-4 season currently. It's okay, we're at a certain place and we can elevate. Yeah. With Iowa, it seems as though it's all about having 8 enjoyable fall Saturday afternoons as opposed to having 4 or 5. Because we're not aspiring to be a championship program. So is that all it is? It's a social event for 12 Saturdays, 7 at home, 7 or 8 at home each year. Therefore,
I think
why not make those enjoyable?
Here's what I think Kirk is. I mean, I know this. Kirk is very self-aware. I think that he understands when he says we don't want a mobile quarterback to go outside of our system. That is Kirk avoiding saying bluntly, for us to be at the level you guys want us to be, the game has to look a certain way. We just aren't going to recruit the kind of players at Iowa that you're accustomed to seeing at some of these other places. We need the game, like Dick Bennett, Wisconsin basketball, and he got to a Final Four doing that. We need the game to look a certain way. Tony Bennett, Virginia basketball, won a national championship doing that with another level of recruit. Okay. But we need the game to look a certain way. We can't win if drawing it plays in the dirt. We can't win that way. We're not going to win that way. We have to win in the mosh pit. That's how we win. And then every few years, there's an opportunity in our roster where we have cycled up that we can have a 2015 or a 2009 kind of a season that he's had there. Okay. And I think that's his way. I think that's what he believes is the watermark of Iowa football.
So, Steve, I completely agree with your evaluation of he's basically maxed out the program. Look at the recruiting landscape and all of that working against them. However, to Erica's point, and this does make a lot of sense, here's the issue. We could be a top team if we had a good offense. Very, very annoying. Also, Gary Barta is a scrub who does more harm than good. Okay,
You're right about that, about Gary Barta. I've never seen an AD work harder to get fired in my life, and yet he not only sticks around, he gets put on the college football playoff committee. So again, Erica knows what time it is. I agree with her.
Doesn't it make sense? So again, I understand the recruiting footprint and the challenges that are there, but when you're producing on occasion elite offense, elite special teams, and usually very good, if the offense is not 115th in the country, if it's 70th in the country, if it's Wisconsin, aren't you doing what Wisconsin has been able to do, going to Big Ten championship games?
I think Kirk agrees with you, and that's why Cade McNamara is there. I think Kirk is telling you that Spencer Petras is the problem, not Brian Ferentz. And now we're going, and you know what? We're going to find out. Okay. You know what Cade McNamara can and cannot do. Cade McNamara is a leader of men. He knows how to lead a program. He knows how to rally young men. Cade McNamara makes winning plays. He is not a prolific quarterback. He's a capable one, however, that also is a coach on the field and gets the most out of his teammates. And in fact, it's this time of year right now where Cade will pay more dividends for them than even on the field. Just what he is from a leader culture standpoint. And so this is provided they can keep Cade upright, because they need the offensive line to be better than it was a year ago. Provided they can keep Cade upright, this year will give you a definitive verdict on Brian Ferentz. All right. If they keep Cade upright, Mark, they should be offensively about where you are saying, which is still not very good, but is at least competent, like sentient, like alive. Okay. All right. Can breathe on their own. They're no longer intubated. Okay. If Cade is upright all year and they can't do that, well, then it is something systemic. So this is Kirk, in a way, kind of betting on his kid.
Erica, thank you so much once again. He put up the middle finger to the entire fan base. Thank you for that, Erica. Steve Deace, Michigan Podcast and the Bigger Ten Podcast. Best place to find you, Steve?
Just look for us right here on YouTube. That's the best place. You can also follow us on Twitter at Bigger Ten and at Michigan Podcast as well.
Steve and I, each and every week on The One, it's one major college football topic that Steve and I get together on live with all of you every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Do your best to be here on time. Bring those comments and questions as well. Steve, it's always a pleasure, sir.
You bet. See you next week.